You are sitting in your car outside a clinic you did not plan to visit. The engine is off. The parking lot is quiet. In your hand is a bill that is not large enough to be called a disaster, but large enough to change the rest of your month. You will still go to work tomorrow. You will still pay rent. You will still answer emails, buy groceries carefully, and move through the week like nothing has collapsed. But the bill has shown you something. Your financial life has no shock absorption, and this is where most people misunderstand generational wealth. They think it begins with a large account balance, a better salary, a lucky investment, a family business, some asset quietly rising in value while life continues in the background. But it does not begin there. Generational wealth begins when your money stops being purely reactive. At the lowest levels, you respond. You respond to bills, late fees, rent increases, credit scores, insurance premiums, and small penalties that pull you backward just when you thought you were finally moving forward. Then, slowly, the question changes, not, how do I survive this month? But, how do I build a life that is not damaged every time something unexpected happens? That is the first movement. Reaction becomes control. Control becomes capital. Capital becomes ownership. Ownership becomes access. Access becomes reputation. And if reputation is going to outlive you, it has to become structure. Before you can build a dynasty, you have to understand the first level of the machine. Level 0 is financial gravity. This is the level where your life is not falling apart, but it is always being pulled downward. A late fee becomes interest. A minimum payment becomes another month of delay. A rent increase changes what you can save, what debt you can pay down, and how clearly you can think. You are not making decisions from freedom here. You are making decisions from pressure. Before you say yes to dinner, you calculate. Before you repair the car, you calculate. Before you open a medical bill, you calculate. Before you decide which payment can wait, you calculate. And after a while, that calculation starts to feel like part of your personality. You become the careful one, the stressed one, the one who says, maybe next time, before anyone realizes there was already a number running in your head. But this is not failure. It is not laziness. It is not proof that you do not understand money. It is what happens when you live inside a system with no margin for error. A low credit score makes the future more expensive. Insurance costs more. Borrowing costs more. Deposits cost more. Mistakes cost more. The system does not need one dramatic disaster to keep you in place. Small leaks are enough. A fee here, a higher bill there, a charge you forgot about. A repair you delayed because delaying it was the only option that made sense at the time. At this level, money is not just something you spend. It is shock absorption. And when you do not have enough of it, every impact moves through the whole structure. Level 1 begins when you stop treating every impact as random. You start building a small wall between your life and the next thing that hits it. You know when the bills arrive. You stop using the credit card like extra income. You pay down the debt with the highest interest. You cancel what no longer serves you. You build a small cash reserve and protect it. No one applauds this level. Nothing about it looks dramatic. But something important has changed. You are no longer surprised by every predictable expense. You have started to separate chaos from pattern. This is the first form of control, not wealth. Control. Discipline, at this level, is not a moral performance. It is not about proving you are better than someone else. It is a defensive system. It buys you time before a mistake becomes a penalty. It buys you space before a bill becomes a crisis. It gives you a few quiet seconds before you have to react. But control has a limit. You can pay everything on time and still have nothing working on your behalf. You can be organized, careful, responsible, and still remain inside a structure where every dollar depends on the next paycheck arriving. That is when level 2 appears. The stable earner. From the outside, this looks like the problem has been solved. You have a better job. The paycheck arrives on schedule. There is health insurance, maybe an employer match, maybe a retirement account, maybe a car that no longer makes you nervous every time it makes a sound. This is real progress. It should not be dismissed. Stability matters when you know what instability costs. But stability has its own quiet trap. Your income is still attached to your time. Your taxes are removed before you touch the money. Your benefits are tied to an institution. Your lifestyle begins rising in small, reasonable ways. A better apartment because you can afford it. A better phone plan because it feels normal now. A few dinners out because you work hard and should be able to enjoy life a little. None of it feels reckless. That is what makes it hard to see. You feel better than before, but not free. That is the hidden lesson of level 2. A salary is a foundation. It is not a dynasty. A stable paycheck can calm the present, but by itself, it cannot build a structure that survives the future. At the next level, the question changes. Not, how much do you earn? But what does your income become after it reaches you? Level 3 begins when income stops disappearing the moment it arrives. You start to understand the difference between money and capital. Money pays rent. Money clears the bill. Money buys food, gas, insurance, and the small things that keep life moving. Capital is different. Capital is money placed into a position, a retirement account, a brokerage account, a tax-advantaged plan, a down payment, an equity grant, a reserve that gives you the right not to panic. At first, these tools feel distant. You have heard the terms before: index funds, employer match, liquidity, debt quality, compound growth. They sounded like language for people who were already ahead. But now you see the system more clearly. The financial world does not only reward people who earn, it rewards people who keep part of what they earn long enough to turn it into something else. That is the quiet test of this level. Can your income survive lifestyle, interest, taxes, impulse, and bad timing long enough to become capital? A dollar spent is gone. A dollar protected creates stability. A dollar invested is assigned a job. But capital alone is not power. You can have accounts and still have no strategy. You can own positions and still react to headlines. You can invest every month and still allow fear, lifestyle, or scattered decisions to weaken the structure. Capital becomes powerful only when it is organized, and the next level begins when capital becomes ownership. Level 4 is the ownership position. This is where your place in the system changes. You are no longer only saving. You are no longer only watching numbers move on a screen. You begin to hold claims on things that produce value. A small business interest, a rental property, equity in a company, a piece of intellectual property, a cash-flowing asset, a minority stake in an operating business. The form matters less than the shift beneath it. Before this level, most of your money came from showing up. You worked. Someone paid you. The exchange repeated. Ownership breaks that pattern. An owner is paid because they hold part of the mechanism, not because they are present every hour, not because someone approved a schedule, not because a manager assigned value to their time. They are paid because the asset produces value, and they have a claim on the output. That is why ownership feels different from income. It changes where you stand in the cash flow. But ownership is not freedom at first. That is the part people skip. Ownership brings maintenance, debt, documents, repairs, partners, taxes, customers, tenants, legal exposure, and mistakes that do not disappear when you close the laptop. You do not become free the moment you own something. You become responsible for a small system. And once you own more than one thing, the problem changes again. The question is no longer effort. The question is placement. Level 5 is the capital allocator. At this level, you are no longer just trying to get more money. You are deciding where each part belongs. How much stays in cash? How much sits in public markets? How much belongs in real estate? How much goes into a business? How much risk can the system carry? How much liquidity do you need? Which debt helps you control an asset? Which debt quietly controls you? Taxes stop looking like paperwork. They become a force that changes the speed of compounding. Liquidity stops looking like idle money. It becomes optionality. Risk stops being one word. It becomes market risk, operator risk, concentration risk, legal risk, tax risk, and reputation risk. Without a framework, assets become clutter. A brokerage account here, a property there, a business interest somewhere else, cash with no clear purpose, debt with no hierarchy. From the outside, it may look like wealth. Inside, it may only be complexity. Accumulation asks, how do I get more? Allocation asks, where should this stand so the system does not break itself? And when your capital is placed with enough discipline, another layer begins to open. Level 6 is the access layer. At this level, opportunity changes shape. It is no longer limited to public platforms, open listings, newsletters, and things anyone can click. Some opportunities arrive through people. A banker replies faster. An attorney talks about structure, not just paperwork. A CPA warns you before the tax problem appears. A founder mentions a raise before the round is widely known. A A business owner has not listed the company yet, but someone thinks you should talk. This is not magic. Access appears when capital, judgment, speed, and discretion begin to combine. People do not bring you serious opportunities because you want them. They bring them because your participation can reduce friction. You can decide. You can understand risk. You can move without drama. You can keep information contained. You can say no without wasting time. But access has a limit. Money can put you in a room once. It cannot keep you there. Access is borrowed trust, and trust has to be renewed. That is why level 7 is reputation as an instrument. At this stage, your name begins to do work before you arrive. An email is opened because it came from you. A call is returned because someone has heard how you operate. A deal is shown because people believe you will handle it properly. Reputation is not image. It is not branding. It is the system's memory of your decisions. How you behaved when terms changed. How you handled confidential information. How you responded when a deal went badly. Whether people felt safer or more exposed after involving you. This is why reputation becomes financial. It reduces friction. It increases trust. It brings opportunities closer. It makes people more willing to let capital, information, and introductions move through you. But it also creates distance. You may sit in a room where a decision makes sense financially and still carries human weight. A team is reduced. A property is repositioned. A business unit is closed. The numbers improve and real people absorb the change. You do not celebrate it, but you do not look away for long. At higher levels, decisions travel farther than your emotions can comfortably follow, and one careless move can cost more than money. It can damage the name that made the access possible. At this level, reputation is the degree to which the system is willing to let opportunity pass through you. But even reputation has a boundary. A name can open doors while you are present. Only structure can keep those doors open after you are gone. Level 8 is structural continuation. At this level, the question changes for the last time. You are no longer asking only how much the assets are worth. You are asking what happens to them when your judgment is no longer in the room. This is where wealth becomes architecture. Trusts, holding companies, foundations, estate plans, operating agreements, tax strategy, family governance, succession rules, education for people who may one day control what they did not build. The language becomes colder because the time horizon becomes longer. Who can make decisions? Who cannot? Which assets can be sold? Which assets must remain intact? What happens when siblings disagree? What happens when someone inherits money before they inherit judgment? At lower levels, wealth is personal. It buys safety, then options, then ownership, then access. But at this level, wealth becomes institutional. It needs rules because emotion will eventually enter the room. It needs structure because memory fades. It needs governance because good intentions are not strong enough to survive taxes, lawsuits, entitlement, confusion, and time. That is the hidden limit of wealth itself. Money can cross a lifetime. Structure is what allows it to cross generations. And this is the final inversion. The journey was never simply from broke to rich. It was from reaction to design. Money solved pressure. Capital created options. Ownership created position. Access opened doors. Reputation kept those doors open. But structure decides what remains after people change. Markets turn, emotions rise, and time removes the original builder from the machine. Generational wealth is not the largest amount of money you ever touch. It is the system that can still make decisions when you are no longer there to explain why it was built.